cell phones, anything that may make noise, they probably will. So you may think you've left them in the car, but please do take a second to check. A few events that are coming up at the Skirball in the very short future. On the 24th of June, Jeff Marks will be talking about the history of cream cheese. And it's not at all what you would expect. I will give you the preview that the Jews who came to the United States in the 1890s didn't know from cream cheese. It was too expensive a food for them to have even considered. So how cream cheese became so Jewish is the topic of the lecture. On the 29th, this is part of a Journeys into Jewish Food series that we're doing. On the 29th of June, we're going to be showing 2 movies, Falafelism, about falafel in Israel and who owns falafel and the political implications of falafel. And we will also be showing The Sturgeon Queens, about the history of Russ and Daughters on the Lower East Side. And then on the 13th of July, Mark Russ Fetterman, who is the grandson of the Russ and Daughters, and now the third of 4 generations who have owned the appetizing shop, will be here with his book, looking at the 100-year history of Russ and Daughters. And that will be it for this year's Journeys into Jewish Food. And then our Sunset concert season is going to be starting, and I'm going to pay special attention to one concert in particular. On the 21st of August, we will be presenting the Yiddish Tango Club, which they're a Los Angeles group, except that they're bringing a singer, Divina Gloria, from Buenos Aires, and it will be a magnificent program. It's free in the courtyard outside. There are 5 other free concerts throughout the late July and the month of August. The 21st of August. So that program, as well as today's program, is part of our ongoing series called Viva, which looks at the conference. That's the wrong word. English is my second language today. It looks at basically a Latin Jewish life. We're very grateful to the National Endowment for the Arts and to the Irvine Foundation for sponsoring our ongoing Viva series. So today, what do I say about Rabbi Jacques? Jacques Cukierkorn was born in Sao Paulo, Brazil. He graduated 20 years ago last Wednesday from HEC in Cincinnati. He's basically been on the forefront of the movement to bring what we would call crypto-Jews, the children, and you can correct my language and say I've said everything wrong. But he's been at the forefront of basically the return movement of these descendants of Conversos back to the Jewish community. It's a really fascinating story, and Jacques an absolutely fascinating man. I've been lucky to spend the weekend with him, and I can also say that he is probably one of my favorite Facebookers. In addition to all that, he has written Accessible Judaism, a concise guide to Judaism, Hamidrich, La Guia, and Judaismo Accesible, Guia Conciso dos I'm speaking Portuguese here, aren't I? Oh, this is Spanish, okay. I don't know what I'm speaking. The last one was, okay. Conciso dos valores y prácticas del judaísmo moderno. Do is not a Spanish word.
Moderno?
No, do.
Do.
It says do here. Okay, whatever. He's a co-author with Bill Tamas of They Were Just People, Stories of Rescues in Poland During the Holocaust, and he also writes for several newspapers and magazines. He is a constant foodie and a person who even I envy his travels. Ladies and gentlemen, Rabbi Jacques.
afternoon. I am thrilled to be here. This is really a highlight for me. I have always admired this institution. I know the Skirball family from Cincinnati, from Jerusalem, our campus. This outside looks just like the Hebrew Union College in Jerusalem. And I'm really grateful to be here. I have to tell you that I'm not here alone. I'm here with some of my most favorite people in the world, are my students from Brazil. We're webcasting this right now. This is an iPad mini, and if you can see the camera, they can see you, and they're here, and they talk, and I promise them, they're so excited that I'm here, and I'll be telling you much about what we do, so they wanted to be present, but this has been a really wonderful, wonderful week. And as Jordan said, on Wednesday, turned the Facebook on, and one of my classmates posted a picture of our ordination class and saying exactly 20 years ago we ordained on the 4th of June. I looked at them and said, oh my God, how these people are looking old. You know, and then on Friday, 2 days ago, we had confirmation for my oldest daughter, who was thrilled because she doesn't have to go to religious school any longer. You know, and I'm also thrilled that some of my favorite people, both Art Benveniste and Gabriella Bon, are here with us today. Gabriella, I'll tell you about that. They are both of them, but Gabriella has spoken here many times, and she's a filmmaker, and she made a film. It was a fantastic film, in spite of my participation in it, about the plea of crypto Jews. And I'm really here, not for me. This is not as I'm getting older, I'm learning that it should be less and less about me, and more about, you know, the plea of these people, and to understand that, you know, the issues in history, history is not that something happens and then it goes away. It's not like the Holocaust happened, there's a Holocaust, and then there's no more Holocaust. You know, some of us live with the feelings of the Holocaust, or memories, or in my case, walking into a crowded elevator and thinking, gee, is this how a train going to Auschwitz felt like? You know, the history we carry it in our bones. Listen, it's one of my many Michigans. What can I tell you? I have lots of it. And you know, and for crypto Jews, this is a reality that is ongoing. There are people around the world who have either a feeling, a desire, a yearning, we could say a longing. That's Gabriella's film, The Longing, for returning to Judaism. And this kind of felt on my lap. I decided to, I came to study to be a rabbi. I've always wanted to be a rabbi. As people want to know, I was born in São Paulo, Brazil. All four of my grandparents came from Poland before the war. I grew up in a very comfortable, nice Jewish community where everybody around me was Jewish. Everybody. We went to the Jewish club. I did judo in the Jewish club. Everything was done among Jews. And yet there were people out there who would come to me and say, "Oh, my family were Jewish." And for me, a Jew was somebody with a name Ibowitz or Stern, and they were upper middle class and white, Caucasian. And yet, you meet people who have sometimes maids coming to our house, and my mom would do Jewish stuff like candles on Friday night, take the maid to the proper place to buy the kosher chickens who in Brazil were shechen, were slaughtered for you. There was no Empire chicken. You had to go in the shoychet, and the maid would say, "Gee, in my village, we do the same thing. We also slaughter chickens that way." Or in my village, my mom also lit candles on Friday night. So I grew up knowing about that. Eventually, I ended up coming to Hebrew Union College. I had to write my thesis. I decided to write my thesis about crypto Jews. It has been a very interesting career in these 20 years. I think, I may talk many times about my wife. Her name is Denise. She was born in Honduras. She's 2% of the Jewish population of Honduras. And I love my wife every day, and I like her most days. So one of the many ways she has frustrated me is that I wanted many, many kids, We have two, they're very good, they're okay. Then there's the dog, it's much better. But if you know how much nachas I get from that dog, I mean, you have no idea. So, but you know, she frustrated my desire to have more kids. So I figured out I had to make Jews in a different way. I decided to make Jews that come already potty trained. And to date, I have done about 500 conversions, which is a lot. Because, you know, I know that due to the work that Brit Bracha, my organization, does, about Brit Bracha, if I can move this. Okay, Brit Bracha. Due to the work of Brit Bracha, I have been able to reach people around the world. As I told you, I'm reaching them right now. We're webcasting, they're listening to this lecture. Probably don't understand much English, many of them. Although they talk among themselves, it's very funny. So they don't need me to entertain themselves. They chat among themselves while I'm speaking. So some of them understand. So later we translate. And we promote long-distance education. There is a totally different reality for Jewish life in Latin America. It's important you understand, when you visit any Jewish community, it's very common Jews ask questions, how many Jews are there in this country? Right. The answer is, it depends, to buy or to sell. Because there's the real number, it's always a small, pitiful, nobody shows up, nobody gives, nobody participates, blah, blah, blah. Right. And then there's the number that the Goyim think there is of us. In Kansas City, where I live, that there are 20,000 Jews. If you ask, there have been research done by the Federation, they ask, talk about Kansas City, right? How many Jews do you think there are in town? They would say 250,000. It's 10 times more. Why? Because we're very prominent. The doctors, the lawyers, people are very prominent. So, but how many Jews are really there in Latin America? 600,000-700,000. However, in my native country, Brazil, there may be 200,000 Jews. However, maybe. However, in Brazil alone, I believe there are about 20 million people who have crypto-Jewish origins, or descendants of people whose families were forced to convert to Christianity during around Inquisition times. I believe in all of Latin America there are at least 30 million people. Okay? And people were, I know for a fact, because among other things, I happen to be a descendant of my family was invited to leave Toledo, somewhere in Spain. I want to believe it's Toledo for a myriad of reasons that Jordan knows, but we're invited to leave Spain, and they went walking first to Germany, and then to the Czech lands, and then eventually to Poland. I happen to be a descendant of quite famous Hasidic rabbis, so the family lore is that. So I know that had story been different, I would probably be a crypto Jew. And people were forced to leave. Many of them made it to Latin America. So here's the deal about how many Jews in Latin America to buy or to sell. And there have been different waves of immigrants to Latin America. And starting from the very early settlers, many of you talk a lot here about New Mexico, about Carvajal, other people who it's suspected they had Jewish origins. I really believe that if you take any Spaniard, it's impossible that they don't have some Jewish blood in them. And to some degree, it's one of my arguments, the choice for Judaism, and in fact, it's not a racial one, it's really a psychological, a religious one. I think people decide that Judaism is a great thing, and then they begin looking for reasons to justify their choice. But I also believe we have a great product, and I believe we have a great product that most of us really don't enjoy fully. I think when I have used that many times. When you are born the son or daughter of a king or a queen, you take for granted many things, and we have a religion that is really so wonderful. Albert Einstein I said something, and then I found out that Einstein had said the same thing. And I went, oh, he must have been a very smart guy. And he said that he wished he had been born a Gentile, so he could convert to Judaism. So wonderful he thought was to be a Jew. And I'm not here to put down anybody's religion. I'm here just to sell mine, if I can. And actually to sell Brit Bracha. And people are really looking for something. I think we live in a time that there's much more information, much more access. People are seeking meaning. I think we have a good product. It pains me sometimes that most Jews really don't understand the fullness. At the same time, I really believe that just like nobody knew about Kabbalah, nobody ever heard about Kabbalah until Madonna got involved in Kabbalah. So I have high hopes that, continue this work. Then one day Jews are going to wake up and say, gee, why are all these people who don't have to be Jewish turning Jewish? Then they'll get interested in it as well. Because it is everything is a wonderful thing. So as I said, in Latin America, there are easily 30 million people who are descendants of crypto-Jews. And I made a career of this I do have a day job. Okay, I'm a rabbi, but it's the kind of work that I feel as a mission, because it requires being able to bridge some gaps. It requires, actually I'm lucky that I'm here, because if I was living in Brazil or Argentina, wherever, the pressure from the Jewish community would be so intense to prevent me from doing the kind of work I do that I don't think I would be able to. But being here, I can go in, I travel, I do what I have to do, I come back home. I'll tell you more about what we do in a minute. And we have, it's really a wonderful work, but there are people searching, people who are really looking for what we have, looking for information. There's an organization in Brazil called CINA, C-I-N-A, it stands for Comunidade Israelita da Nova Aliança, the Israelite Community of New Alliance. And they have, this is just one missionary Christian group, that they alone, they are everywhere in the country. They have a TV station. They alone there's more of people that belong to this ministry than there are Jews in Brazil. Okay? So there are people really searching, and in my version of the world, it's an issue of human rights. If people want something, I have. Judaism is like fire, it's not like water. Water, if I have a cup of water and I give Art half of my cup of water, I only have half a cup of water left. Judaism is like fire. My fire, I can give it to Art, he'll have fire. It doesn't diminish, just the opposite. It adds when you have more. So in my career, I have written lots of books and articles, and here you have a sampling of everything we have. I have my book in Portuguese, in English, in Spanish. There's the book in the middle of the one I wrote about the Holocaust. I have very, very devoted students. I give classes, I sit using the internet, I sit in my home, in my office, I sit with the assistant rabbi of Brit Bracha, which is Daisy, it's my dog. She sits with me. She's always there to make sure that I'm not committing any religious faux pas, so she's there monitoring me. And I give lectures, and these wonderful people, again, there's 12 computers hooked up online right now. They transcribe what I'm a descendant of a known Hasidic called Skirball. Because Skirball was a totally nut guy who, when he died, he didn't write anything. He forbade his students from writing what he was saying, but when he died, his students got together and by memory transcribed what they remember of him. So I'm not that crazy, although I do have the tendency of saying something and forgot I said that. Then once in a while, my students, I'm giving a class and they make some comment, and I say, "Oh, that's a brilliant comment." They say, "Yes, Rabbi, you said that 3 weeks ago." Sometimes they transcribe what I say. So we have a book on Cukierkorn and praise about Cukierkorn. We have run Sidurim, Machzorim, Passover Haggadah. What else we have there? We have done virtual. You know what Tikkun? We just have Shavuot. Tikkun Leil Shavuot, you stay up all night studying. We have done virtual ones, where people, we had hundreds of people in, where we have people teaching and people listening. You know, had services. We just did that. So from my understanding, that people were looking for something, and the other problem is they have a different reality in Latin America than ours here. You know, when I don't want to give my youngest daughter something, she wants wherever, I say, I don't have any money. And she tells me, take it from the machine. Isn't that obvious? Take it from the machine. So when I tell you there are people in Latin America who desperately want to be Jewish, and you may tell me, why don't they go to the synagogue? That's just like, I don't take it from the machine. There are very few synagogues. The synagogues are incredibly hermetic for real or perceived reasons, and perception is reality. People cannot come in. You get a call, you don't even get. I had one rabbi who told me that I have had lots of fights over the phone. One was with a rabbi who told me that from every 50 calls that he receives for conversion, for people interested, he answers one. I said, do you mean for every 50 people I call you, you convert to? I said, oh, hell no. From 50 calls, I reply to one and I tell him no. Wow. Okay? They don't want to do it. There's a rabbi, I'm not going to mention names, who, speaking with him, he was, well, in El Salvador. In El Salvador, there's a very small Jewish community. There's about 250 Jews, maybe 250. I think 250 Jews. And well, the most famous one, you know who it is, right? Monica Lewinsky. The grandparents are Salvadorian Jews. Yes, when you go to the Jewish cemetery in San Salvador, the very first grave you see, you walk in, is Lewinsky. I'm sure you must be very proud of her. Anyway, so yeah, I missed something? Okay, so what happened is, I'm speaking with this rabbi, and he tells me, well, if I allow everybody who wants to be Jewish to become Jewish, there'll be maybe 2,500 of them. There'll be 10 times more of them than of us. At which point, this man is lucky. He was over the telephone across hundreds, thousands of miles, because I would have been on his throat and say, I never knew you were a member of the Nazi party. I mean, you know, you're a Nazi. Once they convert, they become us. I tell you that there are no converts in Judaism. There's Jews and non-Jews. Hi, Chaim. Show you Rabbi Chaim Berliet, a very, very dear friend. Look at that. You came. I'm so glad you came. So, I wasn't sure if the rest of you would show up, so I was trying to fill the room. So anyway, so I figured out, well, there's people, they're spread around, and then I had to figure out how can I help these people. What happened basically was, I wrote my thesis about crypto-Jews. Then Al Gore invented the internet. Then people began contacting me by the internet. And then, I hate Al Gore, by the way, because he got the Nobel Prize the same year that Irena Sandler ran. So he stole her Nobel Prize, and Irena Sandler is this one. You know who Irena Sandler was? That's another lecture. The day I met Irena Sandler, that's what motivated me to write the book about rescuers. But so what happened? Well, I get into rabbinical school. Jordan, it's getting warm in here.
Yeah.
Here finishing is off. I write my thesis about crypto-Jews. Then something comes up. The internet's a fascinating place because anybody, regardless of how narrow their interest is, can find similar people. So people begin contacting me, sending me emails. They have questions. So I would, Rabbi, what is Shavuot? I'll write the piece. Rabbi, what is this? Eventually, I had so many little pieces put together. I said, I'll do a book. So I wrote a book. The book was. First, I wrote it in Spanish because it was the biggest market. It was Hamadrich, La Guia. Basically, I brought one copy to show to the Skirball shop. Maybe they want to carry it here. Make my wife very happy because I have a basement full of them. I'm very hopeful. When I print them, I print 2,000 at a time. We are on our third printing. So, I always print a lot. If you go all the way. And then this book began circulated, people begin writing me, contacting me, into more, so I end up writing, and contacting people. Then they want to learn, so I develop a class, first using Skype. Now we use something which is a system they have now that's called WizIQ. It's called Whiteboard. It's a learning platform. It's a platform that I want to sell onto Rabbi Beliak into it, which is, here I'll show you what it is. You have a whiteboard. In this whiteboard I can write, I can project my images I'm projecting right now, I can play videos, I can bring text, I can do all kinds of things. The classes remain taped so people can watch it later. What else we do? They can chat. I have the ability of allowing them to chat. I have the ability of making them shut up. I have the ability, don't have that in real life. I have the ability of giving them voice, giving them camera. It's a fancy learning platform. And teaching online. And in fact, in my opinion, using the most modern means of our days to teach is something that's very much in line with Judaism. We are not like Amish. We don't reject modernity. Just the opposite. We embrace modernity for the sake of Judaism. One of the most famous rabbis, the Rambam, Maimonides, used the most modern means of his day, which were called, singular Igeret, in the plural Igrot. They are letters. It's a case of a Jewish community in Yemen who wrote him a question: how should we pray? They write it in Yemen, goes by boat, takes X months to get to him. He sits on it for like over a year, writes for them a whole prayer book, sends it back. So about 3 years between the time the question was asked and they received the reply. And this Siddur, this prayer book, the Rambam created for them, is still used till this day by the few Jews left in Yemen, as well as by Yemenite Jewish communities around the world. So what I proposed to do was what the Rambam did, using the most modern means to teach people. And also, you can get a business degree from Harvard online. There are many degrees you can get online. This is what Brit Bracha promotes. Brit Bracha also promotes which is and when people are really, really ready, then what I do is I travel places, and I tell them, I'm going to be in such and such a place, come up, and those of you who can do it, and that's how I have done it. The advantages of the Brit Bracha system, which I believe will be very, very relevant, specifically for Los Angeles, versus Kansas City, where nobody cares, very few Hispanics, is a worldwide reach. Even when I teach now, I'm going to show you this. When I teach now, and here you can see the platform. The platform is, so you have me speaking, I have a text here, and then on this side I see on the top right the names of the people who are online, and then down below is a chat. So, and I can play also, so I can do that. And when I teach, I have people literally everywhere in the world. I have Brazilians in Japan, people in Europe, people in the United States, lots of people throughout Latin America, sometimes hundreds of people logged in online at the same time. It also certainly allows us to create a community. It's interesting how people get to really know each other and to share online. But at the same time, I always focus on eventually, at least once a year, getting together, because to meet people face to face should not only be about online. And I think it has one added here, an awful lot of fear among Hispanics who want to explore their Jewish identity. This kind of platform, kind of what the Brit Bracha does, allows for a great deal of anonymity. You can go in, and not really put your name, not expose yourself. Just as I told you that the Mishigas from the Holocaust passes on from generations, I really believe that Mishigas of the Inquisition also passed on from the generations. So many people want to get to this, but they really are reticent. Also, again, having many cases being mistreated or having the door slammed on their face, they are really reticent to try again. So having an open door, I think really makes a difference. So where's Brit Bracha? We are right now. You have there. They made for me this where we are in the world. There's more, but those are last time we did this. And what do we do currently? We do Shabbat morning services. We do every Shabbat morning. I do 2 services. I do one in Portuguese, one in Spanish. We also do our holidays. The pictures on the right are the last conference we had that was in Brasilia. We also have something that's very interesting, I need to tell you. Brit Bracha is the only congregation that I know of in all of Latin America that is open and affirming to everybody. Rich, poor, white, black, gay, straight. Specifically the issue of acceptance of gays, which I find, the concept I find absurd. Why do they need to be accepted? Why isn't it a given? Well, in Latin America it's not. And what I have said, in Brit Bracha probably would be twice as large as it is now if I had an anti-gay policy. But in fact, Facebook, we are the largest Portuguese language Jewish group. We have close to 9,000 members, which is fairly impressive. At least for me, I don't care what you think. No, it is. I mean, the next group is less than half our size. Just to give you an idea. What does it matter? Nothing. Just that when I talk, there's lots of people listening, but they ignore me, just like my wife and kids. So we do all kinds of activities online. We create communities when we can. We bring people together. Like some people got together for Pesach, some people got together for Rosh Hashanah, with me still speaking. We still webcast, and I tell them that in my opinion, Brit Bracha is the worst possible congregation in the world for them, other than everything else that there is out there. It could be so much more, but we try to do what we can, and people are really yearning. I do spend an awful lot of time doing counseling. People contact me with. Unlike, what questions do they ask you when you are a rabbi? Where's the bathroom? When's Rosh Hashanah? When's Pesach? And why are dues so high? Or something like that. So people contact me with real questions, young couples, or questions like about their private lives, and those are not lurid questions, or they're not sociological questions. They really want to know, what does God want me to do? Or my husband or my boyfriend wants that, fill in the blanks. Is that kosher? We teach classes about how to raise kids, whatever. And people really create communities. There have been some wonderful things. Some of them are wealthy, some of them are poor. People have the wealthy ones have heard about the poor ones having problems and have helped each other without the intermediary of a discretionary fund, like using a synagogue. They just comes to them to be generous. Some of them I support a little bit, but not nearly enough. My wife tells me Brit Bracha is my mistress. It is.